Welcome to District 32, Immersion, inspiration for ambitious business owners with big dreams.
Good afternoon, Clinton.
Good afternoon, Lorraine.
My name is Lorraine. I'm from District 32, and I am very excited to be interviewing Clinton Veld today. You'd probably be a little bit embarrassed about how much I go on about your achievements in life. I described you this morning as a black belt in everything he does.
Thank you very much. Yeah. That's very kind of you.
So leading into there, I would like to give you a proper introduction so that we can set the scene for this interview. You're first and foremost, you're an entrepreneur at heart. But your entry into the world of academia, where you're a current lecturer at Curtin University on your master's degree in project management, which you're probably doing for fun. Yep. Came after a very successful career as the principal management consultant, owner and CEO of the Expert Group of companies that you founded yourself in South Africa in 1995. Now, this is where the humble part comes in. I've heard you introduce yourself to other people. You're a very humble man, but after you built that company from a staff of 2 in 1995, a bank loan of 3,300 Australian dollars.
That's right.
You grew the business to a staff complement of 200 and an annual turnover of close to 100 million South African rand before you were approached by a listed company and you successfully negotiated the sale in a cash transaction in 2007. And for people who can't do the maths, that's only 12 years. So I'll brag about that for you, Clinton, even if you don't.
Thank you.
On the back of there, being agile, adaptable, and comfortable with change has been a hallmark of your success. It's something you're really passionate about. You live by the belief that success requires that we constantly rethink, reinvigorate, react, and reinvent ourselves, our products and our services, so that we can continue to remain relevant to our customers and in line with the purpose of our business.
Absolutely.
So today, I'm very excited to be interviewing you and having a really good discussion around be agile, not fragile.
Correct.
But first of all, before we get into that, I mean, I've read, some books around, lean startup and agile thinking, but for a lot of business owners, this is a brand new concept. Can you please just tell us, first of all, what is being agile in business? What is agility in business? What does that actually mean?
It really means that as business owners, we need to be more responsive to the changing environment that is either driven by our customers' demands or it's driven by other forces that we can't always control. And those can be things like the advent of information technology. It could even be things like the coming of a pandemic like COVID-19, things that we can't always control, but we have to respond to. Now, some organizations and some business leaders will think of agile in a responsive way. So essentially responding when the need to be agile is there, whereas other leaders will use agile to be more proactive, essentially seeing what is coming and then being agile in terms of adapting or getting ready for that particular change. So when we talk about being agile, one of the key words that we often use is being responsive. Another word that we often use as business owners when we think about being agile is being adaptable. And that means adapting our business to the changing environments. Now, that oftentimes could be adaptable both internally in the organization, so changing the way that we operate internally in order to be able to respond to the driving forces externally. And adaptability also means that we may need to think very hard about dumping products and services that we become very attached to in order to be able to create products and services that our customers actually want. Because oftentimes as business owners, when we come up with those initial ideas about our products and services, we can often become very attached to them and very sentimental about them. And even though the business environment is changing around us and our customers are demanding different things, we don't want to let go of the things that we created because we always believe that there will be, there will be a place for them. But in reality, markets move on, customers change their demands, and essentially our products and services become irrelevant. So adaptability is another key word. Speed. When we think about agile, we really do need to think about speed. Now, oftentimes when we use the word speed, we think about delivering quickly, but we're not necessarily talking about delivering products and services quickly. We're talking about delivering value quickly. Now, value is something that we need to deliver quickly to both our customers as well as obviously internally into our business. So oftentimes we hear this thing that value is what something is worth, whereas price is what somebody is prepared to pay.
Yeah.
In an agile environment, price is not as important as value. Customers today are looking for value. What is the worth of the product and service that I'm delivering?
Yeah.
And that needs to be worthy both to the business owner who creates and delivers, as well as to the customer who is obviously prepared to pay a price for that particular value. So customers in an agile environment today are looking for how quickly can we deliver value to our customers. And then probably the last sort of word that we tend to use with agile ways of work is flexibility. How flexible can we be in order to be able to adapt to the changes that our customers are demanding? There is a final key word that we use in addition to the words that I've just shared with you, and that is governance and control. Because when we are agile without governance and control, we become fragile. So even though we need to be adaptable, we need to be flexible, we need to be responsive, and we need to deliver quickly, we should never do that at the expense of good governance and control, because otherwise we are in a chaotic situation and our customers will abandon us because our products and services are chaotic. The adaptability, the speed, the flexibility has created uncertainty, instability in our products and services, and our customers will dump us. So that's why we say we do not want to be fragile while trying to be agile. We need to be agile while still remaining relevant, still delivering value, still having governance and control, but doing it in ways that are quite different to the ways that we've done it in the past. So I think lots of business owners misunderstand the word agile and see agile purely from a reaction perspective when we are under threat, whereas we need to use agile to be proactive as well as be responsive, adaptable, and flexible, but without losing the controls and the governance that we need to deliver a good business and to deliver good services to our customers.
Make that sound too easy the way you've succinctly articulated that, Clint. There's a few things that come up for me there, right at the beginning when you were talking about, agile, there are two ways, to be prepared. You can either wait and see what happens and then move very quickly, or you can try and think ahead and predict, with the information that you have about what's going to happen and react. And both of those reactions, whether you're waiting until the environment is right here or whether you're trying to proactively be agile, and both of those sides have got risks.
Oh, of course they do. Absolutely. Agile is not without its risks. And I think the thing is that when we think in an agile mindset, we are thinking both in the proactive and reactive states. So oftentimes in a proactive state, we may be looking at being agile in respect of creating products and services for what we think our customers may require in the very near future. And so we might use more of a project mindset in that agile environment. And then in a reactive situation, we also need to be agile when we are facing a competitive threat, or whether we are facing changing legislation. For example, things like COVID, where really every day it's something different we have to respond to. And so agility can be both in the proactive and reactive states. But if it's only always reactive, then we're always going to be on the back foot. If it's always reactive, if it's always proactive, then we may be thinking too far ahead and not responding to the now. So it's a balance between the now and the future. and agile ways of work are both in a project sense as well as in a day-to-day sense.
Wow. You could be talking to me personally here, Clinton, for what we're doing to adapt to the environment and the risks. And, it's very, very pertinent to the decisions we were making as an events business and throughout this COVID. How far do we go with regards to if we go into lockdown or any fear-based or environments changing or venues changing? How far ahead do we plan for a new online world? Without it being too risky, without putting all your eggs in one basket and still waiting to react to the current situation and to see if it's actually going to go the way you're perceiving it to go.
Definitely.
And it's just going to be, there's many layers of thinking there, for business owners. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that we know in terms of agile ways of work is that we become comfortable with failing fast, but also learning fast.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, one of the ways that we manage risking in an agile environment is to understand that failure is a very normal part of being agile.
Yeah, okay.
The difference, though, if all we're doing is failing and not learning, then all we're doing is failing. But if we can fail quickly and learn quickly, we can both be responsive to the changes that are driving what we need to do, as well as being proactive in terms of the products and services that we are creating. And I think what we're finding in business today, that traditional predictive sort of plan, and then having, design and then building and then implementing in a very sequential, predictive way is no longer suitable for the environments that we operate in. We have to be very agile. So we almost have to plan, design, implement all in parallel and do that very quickly. But with that comes the risk of failure. But failure is a very normal way of learning.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners today fear failure. But in an agile environment, if you really look at leaders in driving agile businesses, they recognize that failure is really part of learning. As long as we fail quickly and learn quickly and adapt, we can essentially build on those successes. Because if we don't, we become irrelevant.
I like that. It's also given me ideas for people, in the agile environment is knowing when, having some perspective or some boundaries around, or scope, around when are you going to fail? How far is it going to go? Where are the boundaries of that? And how quickly are you going to stop and say, okay, well, that's not working. Let's adapt that and move on, rather than flogging the dead horse.
Most definitely. Yeah, exactly right. And I think the thing is the saying that I once heard is that you can't chase a rabbit with a train. So think about that. Our competitive environment and our customers and COVID-19, for example, is the rabbit. It's fast moving, it's constantly shifting and changing, it's very agile. And we're trying to run our business like a train, which means that we're on a particular track with this big locomotive that is on a track. And we've set that track as business leaders. And, we've set this vision and this mission, and we're driving our train towards that goal. But the point is we're on this track. It's hard for us to shift and move. We really need to be more agile. And I like that saying is you can't chase a rabbit with a train. And if your business is a train and your customers are rabbits and your competitors are rabbits, and the environment around you is a rabbit, then essentially you've got the wrong business model if what you're trying to do is serve rabbits. You really have to abandon that way of work, and you really need to adopt an agile way of work in order to essentially run with rabbits, respond as a rabbit, and essentially, create value in that new market space where your traditional business no longer does.
Yeah, okay. And one of the questions I was going to ask you then, I think we've crossed over a little bit into it there, was, why is it so important to learn this skill and to know what agile is? Why is it so important for business owners to embrace agility? What are the downfalls if we don't act in an agile way?
we can bury our heads in the sand and sort of say that, the forces around us are temporary and they'll simply go away, and our traditional products and services will come back into flavor. But we know that just simply isn't the case. We know, for example, the environment around us is constantly changing. And not only is it constantly changing, but it is changing at rapid pace. So there are a number of fundamental driving forces. We know one of those is that there is a greater focus on delivering value and delivering value quickly, as I've said before. And oftentimes the drivers for that are things like information technology. We live in an information world now. We look at information technology as an instrument to deliver value quickly. If you think, for example, as an iPhone, when you download an app from the App Store, that app is almost never perfect. But it is an app that delivers a minimum viable product. It delivers just enough to already give you some level of value. And then on an ongoing basis, that app is updated with more functions and features so that the value continuously grows. We refer to that in an agile environment as the minimal marketable product. Just enough that can be marketed, that can give value without absolutely being perfect. Because if we try and deliver a perfect product, by the time we deliver perfection, the market has already moved on. And suddenly our product and our service no longer has a market to serve because we've waited too long to deliver it. We have to become comfortable with the fact that we need to deliver minimum viable product that gives just enough value that we can then build upon that incrementally. And what that then allows us to do is, if the market shifts around us, we can then adapt our product and service really quickly. We find that environments or business leaders who want to deliver perfect products and services is that they don't reflect on the changes that are going on around them, which means that they're not adapting their products and services to a changing environment. They are really the train on the track that's trying to deliver to a destination, but the rabbits around us are shifting and changing constantly. And by the time that we reach the destination, our environment has changed. Now, what's forcing that change is a world of information technology, artificial intelligence, the internet of everything. We're looking at cybernetics. Almost every business today is an information business because it is either responding to information or is providing information through its products and services. So it's almost like the environment is forcing us to be agile, even though we may not want to be agile. And if you're agile only on a reactive basis, like when you're under threat or your market is evaporating in front of you, that's not really going to make you survive. You have to be both agile in the proactive basis by leveraging the technologies and the environment that is changing around you, as well as obviously reactive when you are under threat. But you find that organizations that are born agile, so they're not born in a traditional world, they're born in a current environment, they're very happy to respond rapidly because their DNA is already agile. Whereas a lot of business owners that started their businesses maybe 10 or 15 years ago started their businesses in a more traditional environment. And now find that as the world changes around them, they can't adapt quickly enough, or they're not proactive enough. So they're not thinking agile. They're just simply trying to do agile. Agile is a mindset. It's not just simply a practice. So these sort of driving forces are quite significant. We also know that one of the driving forces towards the adoption of agile ways of work is that the cohort of workers that we employ today are the younger generation that are born into an environment of instant gratification. They're looking for instant value. They're not prepared to wait around. Customer loyalty is no longer what it used to be. because competitors are constantly using technology and innovations to deliver value quickly and to steal our customers away. So those new providers or suppliers of products and services are rabbits, because what they are doing is they're providing products and services to a customer that are rabbits. So constantly the shift and change is happening. And if we're still stuck in the traditional world, we'll essentially find that our environment becomes irrelevant. Staff today don't want to work in hierarchical businesses. They want to work in businesses where they can be empowered to contribute, to experiment, to fail fast and to learn fast. They want to be in an environment where their managers serve them rather than manage them. The environment of control and command, as it used to be, no longer satisfies a modern worker that really wants to be empowered to basically contribute. So there are so many environmental shifts and changes around us. They are seismic in nature, but they're also incremental in nature, that if we're still stuck in a traditional world of running business and not adopt an agile way of running business, we'll essentially become irrelevant.
I think it's just so relevant to everything we're going through now. I wish I had interviewed you 6 to 12 months ago, Quentin. But yeah, it's I think there's also a lot of in the landscape at the minute, with all the change that's being forced on us at the minute, whether and that's probably from the COVID environment, or perhaps working from home, and there's technology in there as well. There's lots of people struggle with the fast amount of change. People sometimes, often, particularly maybe the older generation, we like the structure, and this is what I'm going to do in my job. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this, and this. I know what I'm going to expect to do. There's not too much change and I'm going to leave. And then all of a sudden there's this avalanche of changes come in. And if that's not managed, and I think that's where I'm coming back to your, agile mindset. If we're communicating that mindset in the beginning, then it doesn't seem so much like chaos and uncertainty to team members.
Exactly. And I think what we often find is that when we come from a traditional approach to the way that we run business, where we've got order, where we've got predictability, where we've got a sense of control and stability, and we then find that we have this chaotic environment around us that constantly is demanding change and response from us. We have really two responses, I suppose. The one is to bury our heads in the sand and say, well, we'll just stick around and wait for the dust to settle and it'll all come back to some form of normality where we can get control again. Or we essentially decide to respond in order to survive, I suppose. The problem with that is that we respond by doing agile. So what we do is we clutch at frameworks and methods and tools and techniques that sort of reflect an agile response. And that is things like, quickly just change this product or service, quickly just change the price, quickly just go from being, face-to-face to being online. And some of that response is needed, but it's not going to be sustainable. When you find business leaders who say, the environment that we're experiencing is an environment that we're going to continuously experience. So we can see this through the changes in technology, through the changes in ways of work, to the changes in legislation and the economic environment around us. Then we start thinking agile, and then we start behaving agile, and that then allows us to do agile. So if we only ever do agile and we don't think agile in terms of values, and we don't behave in agile in terms of principles, then essentially our agile doing just becomes fragility. We in fact induce more chaos. We become more disorganized. We become more out of control, because essentially we're not adopting an agile mindset. We're simply just adopting an agile response. And if you have a look at leaders in organizations today, both modern business leaders and traditional leaders who have adopted agile ways of work, they are doing it from a mindset perspective. And a mindset is driven by key values. Behavior is about the fundamental principles of being agile. And then they use a whole range of different tools, techniques, and methods, the toolbox essentially, to then function in an agile way. And fragility can become a real problem when organizations simply clutch at trying to do agile without actually thinking agile, without being agile.
I think one of the things you said earlier was really allowed me to see that better, which was, to think agile means that, it would be a project. You would think on a project basis. You're not going to change the whole world. I mean, if this thinking, I'm going to try this, I'm going to test it with this amount of budget. This is the start date. This is the end date. This is the scope. And we're going to see if it works. And if it doesn't, we're going to park it and move on to something else.
Yes, or we're going to adapt, or we're going to, and I think this is when we think agile, we no longer think in predictability. We no longer think in long-term planning. We're not saying that planning is not relevant and predictability is not relevant. We just do not do it in those traditional ways where we're planning, 12, 13, 18 months in advance. And then we lock onto a project and then we deliver that come hell or high water. All right. Yeah. In an agile environment, we're still planning, but our planning is in short increments. So we're planning more short term so that if the plans need to be adjusted, we can adjust them. So we're not saying that planning is not important. We're just saying planning is different. So we're not trying to deliver a product or service that is against a very detailed scope of work that essentially on the day that you start trying to deliver it, it becomes irrelevant because the environment has changed around us. So we really plan and scope in increments, which means that once we've delivered something in a short iteration and that no longer works, we realize, well, we failed on that component. But what did we learn from it? How do we adjust? And this is what differentiates an agile mindset from simply just a reactive agile response to a particular threat. And this is where the fundamental differences come between those who adopt an agile mindset for the future to those who are simply responding with agility to a threat.
I've got some real things to come in conclusion there on how you're actually helping me in my thinking there. It's been enormous value. But you also said something to me before we went online, before we started recording, and you mentioned a phrase which really, I don't know, just made me sigh a little bit of relief. And you spoke about something called pace over perfection. Can you just share about what you meant with that and how you described that to me for the listeners?
Most definitely. I think traditionally we've always wanted to deliver perfect products and services to our customers. And there's been nothing wrong with that. But traditionally, we've had the time to deliver perfection because we haven't had the amount of pressure for change and pressure for agility. In organizations today, in order to deliver value quickly to our customers, we realize we're not going to be able to deliver them a perfect product. We need to be able to look at what does value mean for us as a business owner, what does value mean for our customer. And that means we need to prioritize what it is we're going to deliver in our products and services in order to realize that value, but then obviously incrementally build on that. So one of the things that we find, which is a very important technique in this thing called pace over perfection, is the process of prioritization. Because in the past, we never needed to prioritize because we were intent on delivering 100% perfection. So there was no need to prioritize. Everything was important. Today, in order to deliver value quickly, to keep with the pace and to respond to change, we have to prioritize what is it that we are going to deliver to our customers in terms of value, and what does that mean in terms of what does perfection look like. So one of the techniques we use in an agile environment is called Moscow. And it means that when we are trying to deliver our product and service to our customer in order to deliver value, we've got to think about what are the must-haves. What are the must-haves that we need to deliver in order to realize value to the customer? What are the should-haves? Meaning, what are the things that we should also deliver But if we do not deliver them, the
fine.
must-haves will at least deliver value. What are the could-haves? These are the bells and whistles, which essentially, if we do not deliver them, the customer will not necessarily abandon our product and service. And then the W is, what won't we deliver at all?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Moscow is essentially the must-haves, the should-haves, the could-haves, and the won't-haves this time. And when we think about that process of priority, it allows us to focus on pace over perfection. Because ultimately, the pace we need to deliver will always be on the must-haves. The should-haves and the could-haves are never going to deliver us all of that value. And we can then either adjust those at a later stage, or we can deliver the shoulds and the coulds later on in the process. And in the past, we've always only delivered all the must-haves, which included all the should-haves and all the could-haves, all the bells and whistles. And by the time we delivered the 100% perfection, the customers had moved on. And now suddenly we have a product and service that really has no market. But when we prioritize pace and perfection, which allows us to incrementally deliver on that, or to get to the point we can simply abandon the next phases because the market has moved on, or that the customer is pretty happy with what we've got. So we could have delivered something for $10,000 versus $100,000. And this is what pace over perfection means. And our environment today accepts that not everything needs to be perfect. It just needs to be worthwhile.
Wow. And
that mindset is a crazy mindset for traditional business owners to basically get their heads around. Whereas entrepreneurs that are born agile, that's just normal. And this is why they're going to make us irrelevant if we don't change ourselves.
And that's it. The word is relevancy, right? For business owners.
Exactly.
Clint, I have, thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. I'm really looking forward to hearing you speaking for District 32 members in February. But what I'd just like to say is thank you very much. The information and the principles and just the few ideas that I have gotten just from listening to that, being in part of this interview, will change my business moving forward. And I am kicking myself that we didn't have this interview 6 months ago, because I might have done things very differently. But there is a learning there. And I am going to adopt those principles and those learning and look at that agile mindset. And it just let me breathe a little bit better just as I talk to you. So
of course, yes. It's okay to be agile. You know what I mean? It's okay to be responsive. It's okay to be flexible. It's okay to deliver pace over perfection, but we should never, ever lose governance and control. Because if we do, we are then into the space of fragility. And that's when we destroy value. We're not really adding value. So today, agile is no longer just a term. It's a mindset. It's a way of work. And that's what I'll be talking about when I do that session for District 32 at the Maximizer event on the 17th of February, is really what does it look like in the context of the way that business leaders today are not only changing their businesses towards agility, but adopting agile mindsets as they realize that the pace of change is not going to stop. It's in fact going to get faster, and we're either relevant or we're irrelevant. That's our choice, I reckon.
And thank you very, very much. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. I really look forward to the event, and thank you for adding value to business owners out there who are listening. I look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thanks very much.
You've been listening to District 32, Immersion, inspiration for ambitious business owners with big dreams.